So what comes after postmodernism? Remember that postmodernism occurred after World War II. Well, after postmodernism is something called metamodernism. And so in this video, we're going to go over what is metamodernism. So here you have an article, After Modernism, by Greg Dember, 11 Metamodern Methods in the Arts. For several years, I have been observing and contemplating a certain shift in culture, something that was rather hard to pinpoint, but yet was unmistakably new. Something seemed to have changed in the new millennium that made it cool again to express unabashed feelings of joy, wonder, sadness, vulnerability, triumph in our art and in everyday life, unfettered by the ever-present ironic snark that controlled the 90s and earlier, somehow in such a way that didn't toss out the fun that could be had in playing with irony. And so here, so in 2010, my writing partner, Linda Ciriello, and I came upon an essay called Notes on Metamodernism in the Journal of Aesthetics and Culture. The authors, Dutch scholars Timothy Vermeulen and Robin van den Aker, explained how they had begun noticing artworks that did not seem to live within the aesthetics of postmodernism, and heeding the challenge of other writers who also felt that something new was emerging from postmodernism, and they needed some theory and a better name than postmodernism. So they put forth the name Metamodernism and summarized their take on it by saying that the new artistic sensibility was one that oscillates between a modern enthusiasm and a postmodern irony, between hope and melancholy, between naivete and knowingness, between empathy and apathy, between unity and plurality, between totality and fragmentation, and between purity and ambiguity. Reading this, we felt a sense that we were among kindred minds. Notes on Metamodernism made quite an impression on others as well, and it spawned a number of websites. What exactly is being metamodern? What does it mean to be metamodern? And so in their 2010 essay, Vermeulen and van der Aken cite several other authors who have elaborated on their own theories of what comes after modernism. Among these theories, the Notes on Metamodernism authors propose wrapping at least two of them, quirky and performatism, into their model of metamodernism, or as particular strategies. As far as I'm aware, most discussions of metamodernism have been rooted simply in the notion that oscillation between the qualities of modernism and postmodernism is what defines a metamodern sensibility. Some even seem to conceive of modernism as being about oscillation in general, involving any pair of opposites. My purpose here is to suggest an expanded list of metamodern strategies, methods, starting with a slightly different premise. So, in fact, I propose that the essence of metamodernism is a conscious or unconscious motivation to protect the solidity of felt experience against the scientific reductionism of the modernist perspective and the ironic detachment of the postmodern sensibility. In this essay, I will outline a list of 11 methods that I see appearing in metamodern work. The list includes oscillation, quirky, performation, each as merely one method alongside 8 others that I am introducing. So let me translate this or unpack this. When we had modernism, that was right after World War I, that was the beginning of abstract art, where we wanted to distort reality, and when we draw something like as in different colors. And when you look at the picture, you can't even tell what that is. It's just a splattering of paint. So if someone just splatters paint, or someone that becomes modernism. That's at least in art. And so you want to distort reality. You want to distort the way, in other words, in a reaction against naturalism and realism, where art was, that was right after the Civil War, where art was photographic, realistic, reality as it really is. Modernism was a reaction against realism and naturalism. And also modernism was, let's distort reality, let's take it out of context, let's play with it, let's make it new. So everything after World War I, when we had the Industrial Revolution, and we have the disillusioned World War I veterans coming home from World War I after having seen such death, so they wanted to make the world new again. Unlike the Civil War generation, where their reaction to the death of the Civil War was to make everything like reality and gritty, so resulting in naturalism and realism. So the first literary movement of the 20th century was modernism, where technology was seen as something great. There was an enthusiasm for technology, but then in the arts, a rebellion against tradition, a rebellion against the old way of doing things, as in drawing reality as it is, and a reaction against romanticism. And so that's modernism. So modernism reflects the enthusiasm of technology. So that's in one word, and an abstract art. Going down to postmodernism, if you remember, postmodernism was after World War II, when people were suddenly, they dropped a nuclear bomb, and so not only are you afraid of death, all the deaths that occurred during World War II, but during postmodernism, you also had the fear of nuclear annihilation for the very first time. And so a lot of postmodernist works expressed that fear, and that questioning the American dream, and not believing in American values. And so that resulted in a lot of fiction where everything is irony, where everything is darker, where people were, not believing in the American way of life. If you were to read, and I know I've mentioned this guy 1,000 times, Allen Ginsberg in his poem Howl, and that Allen Ginsberg even uses the F word about America. So that pretty much, why would a scientific, a society that's supposedly civilized, why would you develop the bomb? Is that considered scientific progress? Is that you develop the bomb that can destroy humanity? That's the irony that exists in postmodernism. How can you say, how can you see yourself as civilized if you created the bomb, if you created the nuclear bomb? You see. And so modernism had an enthusiasm for technology. Postmodernism had a negative about technology, saying technology is negative because we created the bomb. And so here, when you have metamodernism, it's a combination of the enthusiasm of modernism with the apathy, the sarcasm, the irony, the negativity of modernism. You combine both of those together and you have metamodernism. So an artist who's modernist can have the negativity of postmodernism combined with the some kind of digital enthusiasm of technology. And you smash that together. What would that look like? You're thinking, what? And so that would be, if I wanted to write a story that was negative about American values, but then I put it in digital form. And then that would be, in other words, you've got the postmodern angst and fear of nuclear bomb combined with, wow, it's on the internet. The enthusiasm people have with technology and the internet, that's modernism. So you oscillate between, wow, I love technology, with, oh, I hate technology. Oh, I love technology. I love the internet. I hate the bomb. I love the internet. I hate the bomb. There you have metamodernism, where you oscillate between loving technology and hating technology. So to me, this is metamodernism in its easiest format to understand. I think it's got to do with our perception of how we see technology. And I think that the digital age has inaugurated in an era where it has replaced the negativity of the bomb with, wow, I'm on the internet. Wow, it's digital. And let's go 3D. Let's go metaverse. And we can play our, avatars, and you can live a whole nother life. Okay, so that is the enthusiasm of the industrial age because of the internet. To put it in a nutshell, okay? So now that you understand that metamodernism is, you oscillate between I hate technology and the bomb, that's postmodernism, to I love technology, and that's the modernism. That's the earlier, before the bomb, everybody loved technology. So when you oscillate between the two, then you have metamodernism. Because the word meta simply means more than or above. And so this pretty much, that is, right now we are in literature in the digital age, which is how I ended my PowerPoint, was talking about everything digital. So that is metamodernism. I hope that makes sense. So I will read through this, and hopefully reading through this, then what I said makes more sense. So modernism, circa 1900 to 1950, attempts to escape tradition's limitations by emphasizing invention, intention, seeing below surface layers to what are perceived as essential structures, and making clear delineations by ranking, rating, or by making everything a certain type. Its own limitation, so modernism means to make everything new. Its own limitation, in other words, the limitation of modernism, is that it often fails to recognize interrelationships, context, and the wisdom of organically evolved knowledge structures and things and perspectives from the margins. Okay, so the drawback of modernism is that you only see things from a European point of view for the most part, white European, and you don't really see it from, say, a Asian point of view, or a gay point of view, or people on the fringe are all missing. And so you need more, you need to expand and that's another aspect of postmodernism, is that different people from different races are able to also talk about their points of view. So another aspect of postmodernism is the fragmentation of society. And because the society has gotten more diverse, and so then you have the literature within postmodernism then reflects Asian American literature, Hispanic American literature, Mexican American literature, gay and lesbian literature. In other words, voices besides dead white men, other voices also come to the forefront. And so that's another trace of postmodernism. And instead of just focusing only on Europeans and white males, you focus on the world, more of a global influence. So when you have metamodernism, you have the influence of the entire world. You're not focused on just Europe, and you're not just focused on white people. You're focused on all the different fringes, and everybody gets a chance to. So when you create a piece of art, it looks a little Chinese. Oh, it looks a little Japanese, and then of course you love the technology of it all. Okay, so that's metamodernism. Metamodernism is a lot more positive than postmodernism. Postmodernism that fear of nuclear, destruction, and that it's because at that time it was so fresh. People were so not used to it. And people have now gotten more used to that, and now much more enthusiastic. So basically that is so postmodernism, 1950 to 2000-ish, seeks to correct. Did I finish this one? I guess so. Okay, so postmodernism is 1950 to 2000 and seeks to correct modernism's hubris through irony, playful juxtaposition, bringing attention to subcultures that are outside the dominant, the re-evaluation of traditional patterns rejected by modernism. Its eventual limitation is that it often nullifies a sense of meaningfulness or purpose and deflates the effective dimension and interior subjectivity. Okay, that means, so there you had everybody so frightened about nuclear, destruction, and postmodernism talked about the meaningless of life. If you're going to die any second, then all of life is like meaningless. All of life has no purpose. Why should we care about anything? And so all of the writing at that time just talks about how everything is so purposeless and everything has no purpose. And you will see writing where people would just write about it looks like a collage. Basically, they try to defy the traditional story structure, and a postmodernist novel tries to distort reality in its own way by not using the traditional story structure of the triggering event, climax, and the resolution. Instead, authors would just write a collage of what they see on the road. And we didn't really read anything like that in our literature class, to tell you the truth. So here are some postmodern artists are like classical composers like John Cage, Stephen Reich, so rock music in general, and then specifically within the arc of rock music, so postmodern music is considered punk rock, new wave, and alternate rock genres of the 80s and 90s. Novelists such as William S. Burroughs, Tom Pynchon, and Bret Easton Ellis. And yes, these authors wrote in a collage-like manner. So you would have the main character would say something like, the story would run something like, and Jan ran down the street, and Jane, you don't find out until the very end what happened to Jane. Jane came to Los Angeles. She sees a man with here you can hear it. She comes to Los Angeles and she sees a man that's homeless, or she goes to the beach. Then she does this. It's all so disjointed, and it's very hard to follow the story. And all it does is it lists a list of things that Jane does. And then the reader, as you read the story, Tom Pynchon this is mostly what he does. And you have to try to figure out of all that fragmented event, what the heck is a story? Okay? So that's very postmodernist as if it's almost as if the nuclear bomb exploded within your story structure. Everything is about getting exploded. Everything is about, society is no longer secure. Everything is fear. Okay, so that's kind of like, and then in art, it's Andy Warhol, Yoko Ono, Robert Reichberg, architects such as Frank Gehry, Robert Venturi, who defied modernist austerity, filmmakers such as Quentin Tarantino and David Lynch. If you've ever watched a Quentin Tarantino movie, he did one about Hitler, and it does not follow a regular movie structure. You're watching it going, what the heck is this story? And it's similar to all those stories that you see on the internet where it's the reader that figures out what the adventures are. And also David Lynch. And in art, it's Andy Warhol, because Andy Warhol made art more approachable to consumers by putting in the Campbell soup can. So, metamodernism, largely beginning in the late 1990s and continuing in the present, reacts to or embraces aspects of all three prior so metamodernism, embraces all of them. Metamodernism is the oscillation between modernism and postmodernism. And so in my formulation, the central motivation of metamodernism is to protect interior, subjective felt experience from the ironic distance of postmodernism, the scientific reductionism of modernism, and the pre-personal inertia of tradition. Does it have a limitation in the way I've claimed for the others? Probably, but we don't know yet, because we're not at a point in history where this particular way of thinking has played itself out. That's what this means. Epistem means a way of thinking. It means a literary period. Has not played itself out yet. So people who are meta-modernist artists include the music of Sufjan Stevens and Jenny Lewis, television shows such as Community and Modern Family, the architect Freddie Mamani Silvestre, filmmakers such as Wes Anderson, Miranda July, and novelists such as Dave Eggers, Eli Batuman. So Dave Eggers, I'm actually writing it down because I'm going to go get these books, because I don't think I've ever read a meta-modernist artist. So this is very good. But I have watched Modern Family, and in other words, it's not I Love Lucy, okay? Modern Family reflects the different voices. Modern Family has a gay couple who adopted a Chinese daughter. So that's totally different than your modernism, where everybody was white. It reflects more postmodernism, where everybody is diverse. And also it has Modern Family. Doesn't have just a mommy, daddy, and the kid. You have two gay guys who adopts a Chinese daughter. Okay, so you got people from the fringes. So that's very postmodern. And then it's positive. It's fun, and it shows emotion. So that's more like modernism. And another aspect of metamodernism is it harkens back to Romanticism, because it allows you to feel love again. Remember that one of the drivers of Romanticism was emotion. Remember that I said that in Romanticism, the stories were driven by emotion. In Moby Dick, the stories are driven by revenge. In Scarlet Letter, the story is driven by shame. And in Telltale Heart, it's guilt. And so once again, in metamodernism, it's an oscillation between all of the previous literary periods into this present period. So metamodernist uses everything. It oscillates between modernism, postmodernism, as well as harkens back to Romanticism. And a very popular film. And in science fiction, that means that you have the modernism. Okay, Interstellar is an example. Okay, so in the movie Interstellar, you have a happy ending. People believe in technology to carry them. So basically what happens in Interstellar is that the Earth is blighted, and the Earth is rendered uninhabitable because of some dust bowl. And you can't grow food on Earth anymore because all of the soil has all dried out, just like the 1930s. So now humanity has to find another planet to live on. So there you got modernism, reliance on technology, the faith in technology again. instead of the fear of nuclear destruction like postmodernism. And so here you have modernism, faith, and then you've got all of humanity as one, okay? Instead of fragmented like in postmodernism. Here you have all of humanity as one, just like in modernism, and then you have a happy ending, just like in modernism. And then you have postmodernism is that I think it has a whole bunch of, diverse people involved. So, you combine all of that together and it becomes metamodernism, because in metamodernism, you combine the best aspects of modernism, you combine the best aspects of postmodernism, and you combine the best aspects of naturalism, realism, and romanticism, and you oscillate between all of the previous periods and just take the best elements of each and put it into your art. So that's, in a nutshell, metamodernism. So some of the metamodernism methods are they characterize as hyper self-flexibility, life as a movie, the narrative double frame, Eshelman's performatism. You can Google all of this, take a look. Oscillation between opposites, quirky, the tiny, this would be minimalism, the epic, the maximalism, constructive pastiche, iron nesty, norm core, overprotection, and metacute. I'm not going to go over all of this because it's going to become too long. I'm already going over, but I think that you guys should read this article, and it's very, very, very interesting. So basically, in metamodernism, you oscillate between all the previous periods to create metamodernism. It's just a combination of everything. So it's a combination of everything that came before. So instead of fighting against the previous literary periods, it's a combination of everything. And that's pretty much, and if you want, I will create a different video going over these 11 traits. But right now, I just want you to understand the difference between modernism, postmodernism, and metamodernism, which is what we have today, going forward into the 21st century. So if you have any questions, and then of course you can read this article, let me go back up so you can see who it is, so you can Google it yourself. Voila, Greg Dember, after postmodernism. And then you can read the article, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me.